today I've got a YouTube sensation with me. A good friend that I've got to know over the couple of years that I've been podcasting. First, we were on the same network together in Brainbusta Radio. And then he started taking over the football manager world and ruffling feathers in that universe because he was just killing it. And now he's going actually into the squared circle, putting that microphone down temporarily until he's talking trash in the ring or in his promos. It is Omega Luke. Omega Luke. Thanks
Hey,
for
Kurt. How you doing, mate? Long time no speak, isn't it?
I think the last time that we've actually spoken, whether it's in person or virtually, was it Progress?
Progress.
Super Strong Style or
Yeah.
Still Chasing?
It was Still Chasing, chapter 95.
Yeah.
What a show, by the way.
Oh, it was fantastic. I think, I met you in the pub at about 1 o'clock and I'd already been drinking for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
fun,
Such a good day.
Fun times. And then obviously it was from that really where you kept telling me about Reach Wrestling and all the good stuff Reach are doing. And then before I know it, you recommend me to Jason and Grayson as somebody that could be trusted to interview a lot of the people coming out of the academy. And now, bloody hell, I think I've done more Reach interviews than I have other interviews. And I'm kind of like that weird uncle that doesn't live around but is always at the parties and is just
You're like one of the fans that we talk about that's always there, but you've never been there yet. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's very weird. But no, it's true because I think chapter 95 when I met you at Progress, that was a week before I was supposed to have the actual training session. And the week that when I actually started, obviously I stopped doing podcasting. And then it got like they knew I had the wrestling podcast before and everything. And they were like, "Oh, do you still do interviews? Because we need to practice our interviews and stuff like that." And I was like, "No, but I know a few guys who can help you out." And of course, here we are. Now you've basically done 95% of the roster that's been on a show so far, and we thank you for that. We thank you for that. Yeah.
No, I've really been enjoying it and like the work you guys are doing in the academy, which we'll get into, and but I think what Reach have been doing over the past year, especially during this lockdown as well, has been absolutely fantastic. Like you're a YouTube sensation yourself, you know what it's like to be getting all the views, and it's been doing great stuff for Reach during this pandemic with the Unit 10. Like, what's your thoughts on the fact that everyone's hitting 1,000 views easily? Some are trying to piece that 2,000 mark, and every Friday night it's all about Reach Wrestling Unit 10.
Yeah, so I'll let you in on a little secret. About 2 or 3 months ago, there was rumblings that we were going to do a no fan show when we come back from lockdown, and it was then just kind of deciding who was going to help with it all because obviously without having any fans, we didn't have any money coming in for tickets and all that kind of stuff. So you can imagine they were a bit like hesitant, and I kind of put my hand up and said, I can edit the videos, I can help record. I've got a GoPro. Other people had GoPros. So I really took to the production side of things as well. And then it was just a case of where's this going to be held, whether they wanted to do it on the streaming network where they originally were charging to view shows, or we were going to do it on YouTube. And I kind of persuaded them around the fact that YouTube, in this current situation where we are in the world now, people are trying to save the pennies rather than spend them. We might be more beneficial if we put it on YouTube because it's free for an audience, but it's also a worldwide audience. People who have to pay £3 to watch it are less likely to do that if they've never heard of Reach or never watched Reach before. Whereas if it's free and you go, "Hey, this is free wrestling," someone from around the world might just go, "All right, I'll give it a chance," end up liking it and stuff. But it started off where we had a YouTube channel with nothing has been on it for a few months, and Grayson and Jason have never really done much on it. They've tried with like Q&As and stuff to put it on there and keep going. But Jason's a big advocate for this, like growing a social media and growing a brand and stuff like that. And but I think he just doesn't have the knowledge in that kind of thing. So when I kind of told them about what I have done on YouTube so far with my channel, and when I worked for FM Scout, they were kind of like, "Well, this is good. Maybe we can build on this." And I still didn't expect it to be we hitting over 1,000 views on the first show within the first week. I told them like don't set your standards too high because it might not be where you want it to be
Yeah.
yet. And then I also said, okay, the first one's amazing, it's over 1,000. Don't expect the second one to be over 1,000 because that's just YouTube. If you do a series, it will drop off, and I was wrong.
Well,
It
the
was
second one smashed the first.
I know. The second one's the highest viewed one. It might have something to do with intergender wrestling. It might have something to do with LA Taylor on the front of the thumbnail and stuff like that. So YouTube's a weird thing, man. I thought everything I knew about YouTube was going to come into fruition with this, and it definitely didn't. We're still learning like how to treat things and stuff like that. But yeah, so far so good with the Unit 10 tapings.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like I've got them up here and reach Unit 10, episode 1, 1.8 thousand views. Then the intergender one, like you said, LA, it goes to 2.8 because then the next time that she's on the front cover, on the thumbnail, it goes to 1.8 thousand again on
Yeah.
the recent episode. So I think without making LA's head grow too much bigger, like there might be something in the water there.
She could be a draw, Kurt. We could be looking at a bit of a draw here. But who else is on episode number 5? That is the big question that we have there. Who else could be a draw? I'm sure we'll talk about
Well,
that in a sec.
it's all about thumbnails. Good thumbnails bring people
Very
in.
true. Kurt, who does
LA,
the
your new
thumbnails?
nickname has to be the thumbnail, LA
Yeah.
Taylor.
Yeah. Yeah, she's very aware that so far she could be bringing in the views.
But now, on episode 5, like we'll get into it shortly, but it was a fantastic debut from yourself, showing such a YouTube sensation. Like I'm in presence of royalty, I guess, for YouTube. But now, in all seriousness, like in terms of your content creating, you have done absolutely amazing, especially with the Football Manager stuff that just skyrocketed, and it was great to see you to a point where there was controversial stuff going on around your stuff. And I
God,
think
yeah.
once that can happen for you, you're doing a great job. And tell people a bit about that content creating that you're still doing at the moment.
So basically, obviously, like yourself, I was doing YouTube and podcasting for wrestling stuff. And I started to go towards more of the YouTube stuff. I liked being on camera and doing like different stuff with a camera. And I was just kind of learning. But at the same time, I was playing Football Manager in the background, like I have done for years and years and years. And then I've always watched YouTubers play Football Manager as well. Always thoroughly enjoyed watching it. And then I just kind of thought, like, why haven't I ever done this before? Now I know how to record it and everything. So I started doing it in May 2018. No, 2019, sorry, because it was only last year. And yeah, it's built on from there. I think I did about 5 or 6 videos, and then I started working for FM Scout. They had about 40,000 subscribers at the time, so that was like a big jump for me, and that helped propel my channel to where it is now. And I started doing like let's play stuff where I just play the actual game itself, and then on the FM Scout channel I was doing more hints and tips and tutorials or Wonder Kid videos, which is, if you're a Football Manager fan, is easily the most popular thing. And then when that kind of went down the Swanee
Yeah,
for
definitely.
FM Scout, that's when I transferred and started doing all that stuff on my own one. So yeah, so far so good. We're really close to the new game coming out now, so that's all I'm preparing myself for. I've took a bit of a break from doing videos on my own channel for a while. I'm doing a lot of editing for the wrestling instead. So while I'm keeping busy with that, the FM stuff, I'm cooling off until the new game's out.
Ah, brilliant. What's your favorite like save so far you've been doing? I started one this year with, I think it was Pelican Rangers. They were in the 15th or 16th tier of English football. And I thought, right, I'm going to try and get them to the Premier League. And that fizzled out shortly, I think, because you play a lot less games in the first couple of years. And I was an idiot
Yeah.
thinking, you know what, I'm still going to activate Italy, Spain, France. And I had about 10 different nations running whilst having 16 leagues in England. And it took its time. It took its time, but
Yeah, definitely.
um, I've done one where it was like AFC Liverpool from tier 10 got onto the Premier League and stuff like that. What's your most proudest achievement so far?
I think it's probably the Youth to Gold series. So I started live streaming on my YouTube channel in the January, I think, and I had only started one series before that on the game. And I didn't think anyone would really pay attention if I did a live stream. I think I had less than 1,000 subscribers at the time. So I was like, if I get like 15 people, brilliant. And then every week I was getting 30, 40, 50, and it was getting more and more. And I had like a concept I've always stuck to, but I use like stricter rules. Like I was only allowed to sign teenagers. Like as soon as they hit the age of 20, that was it. I wasn't allowed to sign them anymore, and I was not allowed to use people who are 30 or above. So I kept like strict rules, and I did a save with Strasbourg in the French league, and we won the Champions League with that live on stream, which was great. But I think I'm more proud of not what I achieved in the game, but how much other people enjoyed that series.
Yeah.
And I'll go live now on Twitch instead of YouTube, and I'll still have people bring up, "Oh, are you going to do another Youth to Gold? Are you going to do this? My favorite part of Youth to Gold was this." Like, there's been moments where I choked on a Toblerone and I nearly died because my defender scored a hat trick, but the defender who scored a hat trick was being sponsored by a Patreon member who said, "If my player ever scores a hat trick, I'll up my Patreon." And then literally the next game, he scored a hat trick, and it was
You played him.
ridiculous.
You played him up front and give him penalties,
I
didn't you?
genuinely didn't either. That was the funny thing because we all laughed about it, and then he scored the second. And I was like, "Hang on!" Like it was all from corners as well, and I took a bit of a bite of a Toblerone. He scored again, and I nearly choked to death. It was ridiculous. And then I also had cramp once on stream, and that was another hilarious moment that everyone brings back. So there's been some funny moments on that, and I like the fact that I think the most proudest part is that people love that series more than I did. And there's people who've like watched it back like more than twice, and I think you're weird.
That's
That is weird. But fair enough.
No, that is amazing. And again, it's great to see you doing so well. And you mentioned it earlier, you've been such a help with Reach in terms of recording and production and stuff like that. It's great to see the fact that you're learning everything about the business. And for
Yeah.
somebody just breaking through an academy to be learning so much like that, I think that is invaluable and it'll lead to what will be a very successful career for yourself.
Yeah, I think what always struck me when I first joined Reach, the academy, was Jason always says these certain things, and a lot of people always says like Jason does spare a lot of shit, but you need to take note of certain things that he says, and I always do it. And one thing he always said to me was like, always think about what you can bring to this company. Like we're a brand, we're a company. What can you bring? Not just you don't just come here and train just to wrestle. What can you bring to us? And I always think in the back of my head, well, I know I'm really good at like talking, so I always ask to do backstage interviews and stuff. And we spoke about doing that before when my training, when I wasn't as like nowhere near ready for a bit of match, and we spoke about doing kind of like a Gene Okerlund kind of role. That never came to fruition either. But when they kind of mentioned they want to do no fan show, that's when I thought this is what I can do to help Reach keep going, because else we would have been training for the last 2 months, 3 months with nothing to actually aim for. And I think myself, I need motivation to have something to train for. And I think maybe that's helped so many of us. And that's why everyone is turning up to training still and working as hard as they possibly can, because they know we've got these tape-ins to do. And I feel quite proud of the fact that we've managed to do that. And I'm helping in that role of production and stuff like that. So I think that's, yeah, I think that's something that it stuck with me. What Jason said to me, what can you bring? This is what I can bring to Reach, and hopefully, it's working out for us. It's brilliant.
Yeah, definitely. So before we get into like your matches and Unit 10 and things like that and you training, like what was it that got you hooked on professional wrestling to begin with, to the point where, again, like me, you got into the podcasting side of things of the wrestling world before going training? Like what was your hook to wrestling?
So I think as a kid growing up in England, we had like drips and drabs of certain bits of wrestling. I know it was hard to watch back in the day, unless your parents had like all of the channels and you didn't have a social life, I guess, because obviously it was all around certain times. But I don't really remember watching it a lot live. I remember having like certain videos and borrowing videos off friends and stuff like that. And I always loved The Rock. That was my guy when I was growing up. I was always a Rock guy, whether he was a bad guy or a good guy. It made no difference to me. So when I was older and it was like, oh yeah, The Rock was a heel. I was like, was he? Like never. I just supported him. I was always Team Rock, whatever he did. So I think he really drew me into wrestling because of his performance side of things and the way he talked. He always made me laugh, and he had a really good character. And I think going on to like later years, like you probably had it yourself, dipping in and out of wrestling for a few years. People bring you back, like CM Punk. He brought me back for a little bit, and then around about 2012, dipped back out again. And then I think independent wrestling brought me back in. I started watching like What Culture wrestling videos. That got me back into wanting to see wrestling because they mentioned this amazing 6-star match between Omega and Okada, and I thought, well, I have to see it. So I
Yeah.
found a way of watching that, and I got hooked on Japanese wrestling from that. Then I get me back into NXT because my friends were like, well, if you like that, you might prefer NXT rather than the main roster. So that's what got me back into it. And as soon as I got back into it this time round, I kind of used to speak to my friends about it all the time. And then it was kind of like, oh, I'd love to do like a wrestling podcast because I used to listen to podcasts then.
Yeah.
And so I'd love to do my own. And then that's when I went on Simon Miller's podcast because I was a big fan of What Culture from the beginning. So Simon Miller was like my favorite guy. I used to listen to his podcast all the time, and he mentioned how you could be on it. And I used to listen to other people be on it, and I used to think I want to speak to him and stuff like that. So I went on and spoke about a Japanese show. I can't remember what it was. It might have been Dominion, I think, a New Japan show. And I come off, and he was like, "That was really good. Can you come back on again?" So I was like, "Yeah, I'll come on again." And then at that point, I had booked tickets to watch New Japan. So he was like, "Brilliant. Come back in 2 weeks' time. We'll come on again. We'll talk about that." So I was like, "Yeah, sure." And then every time I was coming back on, I was having a chat with him after, and he was like, "You should start your own." And eventually, I did. And that's where I met you guys in the Brainbusta lot.
How long was you recording before the Brainbuster stuff?
Oh, so I knew Wilf round about the November time, and I think I started in the July. I think July the 1st was like when I first released my episode. So that was
Yeah.
2018. Brainbuster started around about February, I think. So about
Something.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
about 6 to 7 months, maybe something like that before Brainbuster was a thing.
Yeah, I think it was the same like time scale from us at Wrestle, what was Wrestle Thoughts back then,
Yeah,
um, in terms of that. And then obviously things happen with Brainbuster. That's when I think you seem to drift more towards your football content and
yeah,
away from the wrestling, and which is always good for me because then it led to me doing the Reach interviews. So
yeah.
that's all good. And so when did you think, right, I'm gonna look at my local school, and when was the first time you came across Reach?
So it was actually really strange, and it was just actually a complete coincidence. But the day that I posted my first episodes, Grayson Reese friended me on Facebook, and I was like, "Oh, he's obviously listened to my podcast, thinking I was the big I am." But what actually happened was Reach was doing a show, and he was just adding everybody on Facebook he could find in Plymouth that liked wrestling, so that he could promote Reach shows. So I
Yeah.
was like, I messaged him like, "Oh, you must have added me because of my podcast," and he was like, "What?"
Oh,
um,
did you actually?
yeah, because that's what it was. That's how coincidence it was. It was the exact same day I posted it, and at the time, I'd like just thought I was going to blow up. I was going to be the next Simon Miller, like straight from the off. So I was thinking I was going to get thousands of downloads and stuff like that. And then how weird is it that a wrestler adds you on Facebook the day you post your podcast? You think he's obviously listened then. Um, so eventually I got speaking to him and said, well, I'm going to go to the Reach show. Maybe I can get you on an interview. And he said, yes, would love that. He came on for like the first 3 shows, I think. And he sort of said like, we'll make your podcast, the Reach podcast we go to, because there was a few knocking around the Southwest who were trying to get Reach on all the time. And he was like, no, we'll stick to yours. going forward. And I think when I started doing the YouTube stuff and I used to do the fancy booking faction, Grayson used to get really involved in that because it was a competition and Grayson wanted to
Yeah.
win. And I used to get him to cut promos for the videos and stuff like that. So I was always like back and forth with Grayson, and always mentioned how like maybe one day I could come down and do a training session and vlog it. And he was like, "Yeah, go for it." And then eventually, I think we missed the first Academy show because we went and watched a New Japan show, and he messaged me like, "We've got an opening day coming up in September, if you want to come down." But it was across 2 weeks, and the first week, which was the week after Progress, I actually got kidney stones and couldn't go. And he was like, "Oh yeah, no worries. I thought you were backing out and stuff like that." And then I turned up the week after. But all of my friends went to the first week, which I missed, and said how great it was and how I needed to get involved. And yeah, I'm so glad I did because eventually, I stopped playing football for wrestling. And football I've played since I was like 6 or 7 years old. Never like stopped playing football, and then as soon as I did the wrestling, I haven't kicked a ball since, and that's been over a year now, which is kind of baffling to me. But it's because I enjoy the wrestling so much.
Nah, fair play to you, because like when I'd gone to the NGW Academy and was doing some of the training, at the time I was pro football coach working at Hull City, doing a lot of coaching in schools, and I tore my ligaments playing football locally, and work was not happy.
Mm,
And then I remember getting like quite a stinger or something like on my back whilst training, and I was like, I can't go to work saying I've got injured,
mm,
and unfortunately that was paying the bills. And like, obviously you're a huge football fan, so it's great to see the fact that your passion for that's took over, and
yeah.
the fact that you've been training what, a year, and
Mm.
you've again, I'll be transparent on this. I messaged you as soon as I watched the episode 5. Like, that was a fantastic debut from yourself.
Oh, thank you.
Um, did really good for, again, just being a year in training, and you can tell like passionate and understanding what wrestling's supposed to be. And
Yeah.
there's still a long way to go, but for a starting point, I think a lot of people would want that performance. What was the training like then when you're taking that first bump? Like, how did you find that?
Oh, so the first training session, I had just got over the kidney stones, but I probably still had it in my system and I was probably still very weak. So I remember thinking, I play football twice a weekend, 90 minutes, no big deal whatsoever. The fitness side of thing, I'll be fine. It's just learning how to actually wrestle. I was wrong. Wrong. The wrestling conditioning is by far and large the hardest thing I've ever had to do, and it's still the hardest thing I have to do at training. Um, and I think that first session, I went. We did like a certain amount. We had to do like 50 burpees after doing all these runs and all these bear crawls and stuff like that. And I was like, 50 burpees. And they were like, "Yeah, normally we do 200." I'm like, "You normally do, but we're only doing 50." And I remember I got like halfway through and I thought, I'm going to pass out in a minute. I'm going to pass out. So I had to go and sit in the toilet. And I thought, surely this has got to be the kidney stones, like playing up. And I remember coming out of the toilet and Grayson was going, "Where's Luke? Where's Luke gone?" And I come out, I was like, "Oh, it's the kidney stones, mate." He's like, "Oh, fair enough." But no, the week after was just as hard. It wasn't the kidney stones. And it's just got
1 year
worse and
later,
worse, I
and you're
think.
like, Grayson, it's still the kidney stones.
Yeah, I've still got one or two around, I think. I think what really killed me was the time off for lockdown. When just before the lockdown happened, I was probably in the best shape I had been in since I was like 18, and I was conditioned for wrestling. So like going in the ring, I was a lot better. And then we had the lockdown, and at one point, because I obviously had a baby, we didn't know. Originally, we thought lockdown was going to be like 4 weeks. So I thought, 4 weeks off from wrestling, I'll be fine. I'll pick that back up. It turned out to be 4 months, and it got to like 3 months in, and the wife was like, "Are you gonna continue doing this?" And I was like, "I don't know now. I don't know," because at that point, like we never knew what was gonna happen, when we were gonna come back, watch whether there would be any shows and stuff. And it wasn't until there's like three guys who I'm really close to in the academy because we all started at the same time, and two of them were my mates beforehand. They did a 1-to-1 before we got back into training, and they telling me about what they did in their 1-to-1, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm coming back. I'm coming back." But then I put on like 2 stone, and I've been still trying to work that off now. So getting back into shape post lockdown was difficult. Conditioning wise, it is hard. It is hard work, definitely, for wrestling.
How are you going to cope with the gyms closing again now then?
See, I started dieting, and I'm keeping to it quite well. And a lot of the conditioning for the wrestling that we do, you can do a lot of it at home, like the press ups, like the burpees, the fitness test that we have to do sort of every 4 to 6 weeks. You can do pretty much 95% of that at home, and then the 800-meter run at the end of it. If you really wanted to, you can go outside and do the 800-meter run and just time it all. So we can do it all at home. There's no like, we don't have to be lifting loads of weights and stuff to do the conditioning side of things. That's all added stuff if you want to bulk up and get the muscles which you need for wrestling. But so yeah, I think I might be all right this time round, especially if it's only 4 weeks. I'll continue doing what I've been doing at home. Like because I did such a bad time when I come back off lockdown in that fitness test. I made sure that the next time I improved drastically because I didn't want to be embarrassed. So I did get a lot better time this time. So I'll just keep that up and keep my diet going well.
Yeah. How have you found trying to come up with your style to wrestle, and when did you come up with this YouTube sensation character?
So the style of wrestling is I'm kind of restricted to it because I'm not that athletic. Like I can't do what Lucky does. I can't do what Jordan does. They're both very athletic people, Jordan Sparks. But I can't do say what Redwood and Silverback do because I'm not that big compared. So I'm kind of in the middle. I kind of have to be a hybrid of both, but not good at either of them, kind of thing. So I think I'm quite restricted, but I also think I found a good balance of instead of being the wrestler guy, being more of a character guy, because that to me is my strong point. I know that's my strong point
Yeah.
because I can do the YouTube thing. I know I'm quite good at talking on a promo, or I can talk trash in the ring while I'm wrestling, which I enjoy doing, and I think that works well for someone who isn't a wrestler. So
Yeah.
I think I'm not very good at the technical side of things. I can do moves and stuff, but the character side of thing is where I'm more stronger. So I always envision myself having a strong character rather than being a strong wrestler. And I think as soon as like I mentioned to Jace about my YouTube channel and stuff, how much it's grown, we kind of knew it was going to go in that direction. Then it was just weaving it in and out, whether I was going to be a good guy or a bad guy, that kind of thing. And we've kind of floated between the two, really. Jace is brilliant for coming up with 1,000,001 ideas. It's just him remembering them. So he's come up to me on nights out and gone, I've got a brilliant idea for you. And he would explain it. And I'm like, yes, let's do it. And then the next day, I'm like, oh, Jace, that idea, what was it again? And he was like, I don't know. And it's like, oh no, I can't remember what it was. So eventually we kind of come to the agreement that the YouTube sensation thing and over exaggerate that kind of thing and be a cocky heel. And then it got to like, I think they said, right, do a promo for week 3 or 4 for the tapings. And then they mentioned, oh, you might go against so and so for your first match. And I was like, but he's a heel. I thought I was supposed to be a heel. And they were like, oh, we don't know whether you're going to be a heel or a face yet. And I'm like, I've kind of done a promo already, and it's very heelish. So they watched the promo, and Jace was like, perfect, yep, heel easily. So luckily, it's gone down that route. But I think the best thing about that kind of thing is if we really wanted to, we could transfer it into a babyface. I could be a good guy instead of a cocky bad guy, but it all depends what Reach need and what Jason Grayson think is the best thing for the product. If they need a baby face and they can't really think of who to use, I could be that guy to fit the role. And that's what Jason Grayson always say, like, be available, be like available to be transferable and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
be and help us out if we really need it. Be someone who can step into someone else's shoes if someone leaves or is injured, that kind of thing. So yeah.
Nah, definitely. And with Reach Wrestling, like I've mentioned it in all my other interviews, their academy and the people they bring in to the academy, second to none. You've had some of the best trainers in the world. You've mentioned Jason. He's really good with the ideas and the character work side of
Yeah.
things. And Grayson, like, would you agree in the terms of what's the best thing you've learned from Grayson?
Oh, great! I think Grayson is very underrated in British wrestling.
Yeah,
Like I only ever heard of him at Reach, and then every time people talk about like wrestlers across Brit wrestling, it shocks me that Grayson doesn't get mentioned because I've like seen a lot of him now. Obviously training with him, and he's so clean, so smooth, and like even on the episode where that's just happened, him and Max Wilson.
wow.
What that's a wrestling clinic.
Yeah,
That is unbelievable for free wrestling on British Independence. The fact that one of them is a trainee, and one of them's the coach. That was a hell of a match.
yeah,
But Grayson just seems to do that. He gets that side of things, like telling a story. And like we mentioned, Jason is very good at being the loud character of the whole match and stuff like that. He's very character driven. I think that's the best thing about the Reach Academy. We've got. I remember watching a documentary. I don't know whether you've seen it on OVW on the WWE network, and they mentioned the trainers that they had at OVW. How one of them was completely polar opposite to the other.
yeah.
And that is Jason and Grayson. As soon as I watched that, I thought, that's us. Because we've got Jason, who, if you want something character wise or promo wise or something like that, yes, you can go to Grayson and he'll give you great advice. But if you go to Jason, he may come up with an idea off the top of that you think, oh, that's brilliant. And he'll tell you how he wants you to put it across, and he will do examples and stuff. And he's Jason's character is just Jason. So if we like banter with him, he's just being Jason King. Like that's just him. He's loud all the time. And then you got Grayson, who if you want to learn a move, a technical move, or you want to perfect something, you ask him, and he'll take you in the ring and show you it, and and you'll pick it up a lot easier from his training. But yeah, the other trainers that we've had, I mean, you mentioned a couple there, like Joe Redmond. We had Eddie Ryan come in recently for a few as well, which is the first time because I missed an Eddie Ryan seminar twice now, and I'm like, for God's sake, every time there's been one, I've missed it. I finally got to do like training with him because he's come down recently to get himself back into shape, into ring ready, and yeah, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Confidence wise, he's helped me like no ends. There's certain things I couldn't do before lockdown happened when I was in better shape. And then on like last week, he helped me do like two or three of the things that I couldn't do before, like spot on. Luke Phoenix is another one. I think someone else on your podcast has mentioned how good Luke Phoenix was. Unbelievable guy, really nice guy, and yeah, really good trainer. And then the two people that we've had down recently, PJ and Josh Knott. If you want people, ask people about heel work, there's no better two around the Southwest than those two.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's why one, Unit 10's working so well, and two, with the Reach Academy, because nobody's the same. And I
No.
think it's because you have two completely different people, but then you're bringing in different guest trainers that work on everything different, whether it's the people you mentioned or like Charlie Sterling, Yeston Reese. Like, you've got so many people where they can learn so much to everybody.
Yeah.
Whereas there's so many companies where it's like that wrestler could be very mistaken for the wrestler in the last match, or
Yeah.
because it's very just one dimensional. Whereas
Yeah.
you guys, it's you mentioned it earlier. What can you bring to the company? What can you bring to the brand? And I think that's why it works for a show that's what 95% based on academy students to be hitting those numbers have been absolutely fantastic. And
Yeah.
it's
Absolutely.
definitely the correct decision to go down the YouTube route, in my opinion, because I think this has helped the visibility of Reach go probably greater than it's ever been, more like further afield.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
I think it's putting a good stead in. Like, look, there's no wrestling, and because of the horrible actions that have been highlighted in British wrestling recently,
Mm.
there's a lot of spaces of good people in the industry that deserve those spots now, and those
Yes.
spots are free. And Reach are putting on so many good matches with their local guys or their academy students that if I'm a wrestling promoter, I know full well I have actually sent some matches to different promotions that I speak to, like, hey, you should check this person out. They're really good. And I show them that match.
Yeah.
And I think if I'm a promoter, especially based down the south of England, you should be watching that because everyone's saying Brit Rest is dead. It ain't fucking dead. I'm sorry,
No,
but it really isn't. And
absolutely not.
the old big reason NXT UK had such an impact on the scene was because everybody used the same wrestlers across the board and
Mm.
didn't invest in their own talent. Reach don't have that problem because they're investing, and because if they lose any of their guys to NXT UK, it's because they're homegrown based. So
Yeah.
now they're like, hey, we've had Omega Luke or Joey Seven or LA Taylor go to NXT UK, come train with us. So everybody else in the south of England, like, that's the place to be.
Yeah. Well, we're having to like shut the door because there's so many people now who want to turn up. I remember when I joined, there was like close to 30 people in the academy, and we were like, I remember people who have been there for ages, like, wow, we've nearly got like 30 people in this academy now. I remember when there was just 10 of us, like rocking up to training, and it got to the point where the place we were training at just wasn't big enough because we were training once a week on a Sunday with one ring and in one session. And that's when they made the jump to have a unit and have like evening training sessions and multiple training sessions, tiered training sessions. So we came in, and after a couple of months, I was going from training just once a week to like 3 times a week. And it helped our progression massively. Jordan Sparks started like 2 weeks after me, and because of his like schedule at uni, he can train so much now that he is one of the best people in the academy. Like, there's no doubt about it. Watching the matches he has had and editing his matches are an absolute pleasure because I really
Yeah,
enjoy watching them. And I'm not just saying that because he's one of my best friends at Reach, but because he's very good at what he does now. But if we were still at the original place where we were only training once a week, he might not be anywhere near the quality that he is at now. And that's all down to Grayson and Jason thinking, right, we've got something here. We've got so many people who want to train with us now. We can expand. And then it's got to the point where like, oh my God, we need to expand again. We've added a Monday session where we didn't have it before, and we've got new beginners coming in. And I just dropped before we're recording here. I dropped the camera down the unit and for a setup, and there's like 5 or 6 people in there who I've never seen before because they are at the last open day. So it's great. We've got all these new people coming in, all these new people training, all at different levels coming through, and it's exciting because it's not the fact that you should be wary about they're going to take your place or anything, because you should be working hard enough to keep your place.
yeah,
Which is what Jason and Grayson tell us all the time. We're there doing 20 burpees. We're on our like 15. This is just over one round, and we're there on a 15, and Jason is there shouting above you. We've got so and so here. Is he going to take your place? And it's just motivation, but it's also just him shouting at you, saying, "Don't let these people take your place. Work hard for your place, and earn your spot." And now then you'll see it as all these new people coming in are people to work with, not taking your space, and it's different people to work
yeah.
with, which I think is the exciting thing.
No, definitely. It's great for you to tell that story of how many people are now going in. Again, Unit 10's only going to help that because it's such a platform for people just finding their way, getting used to working cameras,
Yeah,
um, close to working TV, I guess, because the way Reach runs their shows, it's not, let's just do spot fest for the sake of spot fest.
mm,
Everything has to have a character. Everything has to have a story and a purpose behind it. Or if there's just a random match thrown together, there's an underlying issue where a story will develop afterwards, or it's like, well, why did they face? And then the next week, you'll be like, because his actions, and
yeah,
it's great to see that. And like I know I'm not working now because I've got the little one here. But from say the full-time job of being a dad or full-time job of practically what I did, I think I recorded 20 interviews in October, and then working full-time, yet reach was still a priority. Like it comes
yeah,
Friday, or well, sometimes on a Friday, and then I'd even watch the preview again, like my sneak peek, I guess. I'll watch that on the Wednesday or Thursday. Friday comes, and if I can be free Friday, I'll watch it through again.
Mm.
And there's so much wrestling that I'm behind on, where it's AEW or WWE, and I'm like, right, do I watch one of them? No, I'm gonna watch for each, and
Yeah.
it's it is a testament to the good work that you guys are doing, because I think from the first set of tapings as well, I think from episode 5, the production values even a lot more
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
I think getting rid of that main center light has
Hmm.
worked wonders for matches,
Yeah.
because it just makes everything look visually crisp. You've got Max doing some ring announcing now, and
Yeah.
I think everything just you can tell that it's like, right, this is the first 4 episodes and it's worked really well. What can we do better? And then the next set of tapings, you've put that in place, and I think for a company not to be like, well, we've got 1,000 views, like whatever we're doing's working, like let's stick to that. No, you've had a look, thought, right, what works, what doesn't work, right, let's make this better, and you've gone on. And again, episode 5 was such a good watch, because again, I felt it was just the production and moving fucking graphics.
Yeah.
Everybody says they miss the moving match graphics, and I love the fact that Reach incorporate that.
Yeah, what's best about it as well is it's not just Grayson and Jason who are saying, right, we need to do this, we need to do that. It's people like I'll name names. Where Gilbert had a couple of spotlights, and we were like, if we put one up there and one up there, we could turn that main light off, because when you're recording, when watching the matches back from the first sort of tapings, like you said, the lighting wasn't the best it could be. Let's see if it improves it. It improved it. So then Wade, who's a builder in his day job, was like, right, I'll put a shelf up there for you. I'll put a shelf up there for you. Brilliant. So he came in on a training session where I was actually training. He had trained just before, brought his van up, smacked up a shelf, and Jason was like, "What are you guys doing?" We're like, "Oh, we're putting a shelf up." Okay, why? We're like, for the lights for the next start of tapings. He's like, good idea. So it's the academy like taking an initiative. Then another guy came in. I've bought a roll of black curtain to go across, to cover all that up, because when we were doing the tapings the first time round, it looked ugly if we went from a certain angle, because you could see all the backdrop where we had moved everything that we used for training in the corner for the taping, so it looked as clean as possible. But it's all crammed in the corner. Now we've got a black curtain which covers that and adds to the lighting and stuff like that. So it's everyone chipping in and thinking, how can we improve this? Not, oh my god, we've, like you said, we're resting on our laurels. We've got 1,000 views. We'll just take that and sit on that each time, and eventually we'll just teeter out. We're trying to improve every single time, not just the wrestling, not just storylines, but production values too. And if we can, the guys who do the commentary, they're now doing like studio parts and stuff, and it adds
Yeah.
so much
So
value to the product. So much value. As soon as they did the first one, which I think was episode 4, and it was mainly because when I was editing, I didn't know how to end the episode, because Jason was like, "No, you cannot say we're going to be back next week, because we only said we're going to do 4, then we're going to announce it." So I was like, "Right, okay." I was like, "Well, I don't know what to do for an outro," and I was like, "Carl, can you do like some kind of thank you and goodbye?" They did that studio part, and I was like, "Jace, we need to get these guys to do it more and more." He's like, "Absolutely agree. We need to do it." It added so much value to it. And then like the last show, they did like 3 different parts where you go to the Reach Studio, Unit 10 Studios, and it's Carl and Dave, and it adds so much value to the product. Talking about storylines and building it up and everything, it just added so much to it. Yeah, but like you say, it just keeps getting improving week on week. It's so good.
nah, and yeah, I've got to agree. And for those listening, like that's not to say the production was terrible on the first 4, so still make sure you do go watch them.
Yeah.
It's just the little things. I think when you are like a perfectionist and stuff like that, and you're like, well, this had helped this and this had helped that. I think that's all it's been a case of, and
Mm.
I can't wait to see like what it's going to be like. I'm going to be sad when Unit 10 does finally end. I'm going to be like,
I think we all will. We were not going to know what to do.
no, it'll be like that picture where Wolverine's laid on the bed looking at his picture, and it'll be me of
Yeah.
Unit 10.
No, that's the
So
good thing. Like we've brought like wrestling to a lot of people who haven't been able to watch wrestling, like yourself. How many shows do you go watch without COVID, but like before COVID, how many live shows did you go watch last year? Even though you were living in Hull, like you still going to
Jesus,
London shows and stuff like that.
Jesus Christ, yeah. What? I remember one. I don't think it was last year. I think it might have been the year before. I did Rev Pro New Japan on the Thursday, Friday. Went home. Then on the following Friday, I went to Liverpool for Ring of Honor. Then Manchester on the Saturday for Preston City Wrestling. Then Sunday for ICW Fear and
Mm.
Loathing. And yeah, I travel all over Wolverhampton, London. I was supposed to do Plymouth for the
Yeah,
anniversary show where I was going to do 6 hours on a coach. I think it was like a 12-hour round trip or something. Oh
yeah,
no, it was about 11 hours there, I think. I think it was a full day of traveling.
yeah.
And then again, on the way back, it was like a 23-hour round trip that I was going to do. And yeah, so
But
it's
it's
good because although I like watching whether it's WWE or AEW, it's still my passion's independent wrestling.
yeah.
And
And just like you, there's so many other people who has the exact same passion. I don't watch WWE stuff. I watch NXT. I don't watch AEW. I like to think I keep in check with it all,
yeah,
but I don't watch it. If I've got like a spare hour now, I don't watch the new stuff. I'll go back and watch like the 90s or 80s stuff because
yeah,
that's where I learn the most. Now actually training to wrestle, that's where I learn the most. Whereas I think when I watch modern stuff now, I tend to watch it for enjoyment rather than education.
yeah,
And like you mentioned there, like perfect when you're a perfectionist or you want to keep improving, if I've got a spare hour for my YouTube channel, I don't spend it like just doing whatever. I spend it trying to improve something. I try and improve one thing at a time, and then eventually the whole product to be good. And I think that's exactly the same with like the wrestling thing. I want to watch old stuff where I know I can learn more rather than the new stuff. And
Who
like
have you been
yourself,
watching?
so growing up, I never watched a lot of WCW, hardly anything. So now I've been going back watching like Starcades, Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes. I went through a bit of a British Bulldog phase for a while in
Yeah.
WCW. I watched a lot of Vader a couple of weeks ago, which
Okay.
was a different experience, only for the fact that I listened to a podcast about Vader. And they, you know, when it's like you listen to something, you get sucked in, and you're like, oh, if you haven't seen that match, you need to go watch it. I got sucked into that. But yeah, a lot of WCW stuff. Definitely trying to watch a lot of that. Some Sting matches I really enjoyed. So going back and I think watching a variety of different people picking up different bits. It's been good.
Right, brilliant. So I want to talk about that debut match then with MER, Seth Cameron. We've also seen him being a referee,
Yeah.
and poor lad. I just look. I love the fact that he's like, "Here's your shirt,
Yeah.
and why don't I wrestle Wade instead?"
Yeah, it's quite good because as soon as Jason said we've got a microphone now for the next lot of tapings, I was like brilliant because I want to do a promo. So I begged them. I was like, please, can I do a promo? And they were like, yeah, I think you should. It works with your character. So I was like, I did not expect them to say yes. So straight away I was thinking, I've got to nail this. I've got to come up with something decent. So I said to Cameron, like, obviously his storyline at the minute is the he's been given an opportunity now from a referee to a wrestler. I need to incorporate that into the match. So I said to him, like, how about like I just keep claiming that you're just a referee, and Jason King's told me that you're going to be a referee, so it's not too big of a deal. And he was like, you could throw my referee shirt at me. I was thinking, that's brilliant, Cam. Thank you for that. And then like we asked for Wade Gilbert to be the referee because I wanted to do that spot where I'd be like, where I threw it at him and said, you know, you could referee and officiate while I beat Wade Gilbert up instead. And then even Wade perfectly went over and did a, do you want to, we going to swap this out, Cam? And stuff like that. It was brilliant. So, yeah, kudos to Cam for allowing me to do something like that on my debut, very obnoxiously. But yeah, brilliant. I love that.
So looking back in like when the episode released, like what was your thoughts on watching that match back when you'd been? Oh, well, you'd have edited it anyway. So what was your thoughts watching that match back of yours?
So there's bits when I actually thought when I first watched it back, oh, it's not as bad as what I thought it would be. When we came out of the ring, and I spoke to Cam, we were both like, there's a bit where we kind of forgot what we were doing or
Yeah,
something like that. And In your head when you're in the ring, like obviously it's my first ever time. As soon as I got in there, everything that I had thought about and remembered just went straight off my head, and I thought, oh crap. And you kind of just go with the flow, and bits come to you at different points of the match, and then you come out, and it's kind of a blur. Everyone's coming up to you and go, "That was brilliant. That was really enjoyed that." And in my head, I'm thinking, "Was it good, or are they just being nice?" And bits. Me and Cam were speaking about it after, and he mentioned like certain bits of it, and I thought, I don't remember doing that. Like he mentioned like the back elbow, and I thought, I don't remember giving you a back elbow. And then watching it back, like obviously I did, and it's just when I'm watching it back, it wasn't as bad as what I thought it would be. And there's bits I'm very critical of myself. Like there's bits where I look at it and go, what were you thinking there? But it's all a learning experience to me. I know the next time I have a match, things not to do and stuff like that. And yeah, so overall, I'm pleased. I'm actually really pleased with how it went. As a debut match, it could have been a lot worse.
No, definitely. And where did you come up with the is it what, sunrise sensation?
The sunset subscribe.
That's the one.
Yeah. So do you on about the actual move itself or the name?
Yeah, yeah.
So the move itself, I seen a guy did a video and put it because I follow like loads of GIF channels, and someone did it as like a training one, but he didn't hook the head. He had
Yeah.
them held and flipped and sort of like pushed them down with them. And then it was all the way back in like February when I seen it. And when me and Jordan were doing a training spot, and we had to come up with like a different drill. And I said, "Oh, I want to do this move," and I couldn't remember exactly off the top of my head how it went. I was like, "I think I hook you here and have you down, and then I flip." Then he was like, "Yeah, maybe you have my arm there." I'm like, "Yeah, I'll have your arm here and flip like that." And we did it, and it got like a huge pop in training. And I was like, "Well, that's a good move to have. I'll use that as my finisher." And then when I went back and watched the video, I was like, "Oh, I did it wrong." But I think I prefer the way that I do it
Yeah.
because of the way it looks. And a
No,
lot of people have said
I
how
really
good
like
it
it.
is. Yeah, yeah. I
I
I,
think
I, I like it. Yeah,
yeah, I think it looks better with you hooking the head and driving it down
yeah.
rather than doing the pushing. And where did you come up with the name then?
So it's weird. I was at training last week and we sent the episode off to the commentators. And while I was there, Jason just shouted over to me and went, "Luke, Carl wants to know what your finish is called." I was like, "I don't know." He was like, "Well, he needs to know now because he's doing the commentary." So I was like, well, I suppose I flipped, so it's kind of like a sunset kind of thing. It's round. So I just went like, and I link it to my YouTube channel. I was like, "Sunset subscribe." He was like, "Yeah," I sent it to him, and that was basically it. So
I
that
like
was
it.
yeah, it was literally 5 seconds off the top of my head. No thought went into it whatsoever. I could look at this, but in a year's time, be like, why is that called that for? That is awful. But no, it's all right at the minute.
No, I think it's good that it is playing into your character,
Yeah,
um, because again, it's all the pieces of puzzles just making you essentially. And
yeah.
so, what are your goals for Unit 10, and what are your goals within Reach going forward then?
So I kind of just like the idea of having a nice little rivalry, a nice little feud that maybe people talk about, having a few matches with the same person, like maybe like a trilogy of matches. I'm 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 not one of these people who are like, oh, I got into wrestling because I want to be in WWE. Like to me, that is it's not really a goal of mine. If they
You
could,
don't
don't
watch the
believe.
product.
Yeah, yeah, I don't watch the product. I mean, NXT UK, I kind of watch it bit parts. But if Triple H rung me up and was like, "Luke, do you fancy a girl?" I'm not going to turn him down. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, it's not like an overall goal for me to get past Reach. When I started, I always just thought, do you know what? I really like the people around. I like watching the Reach shows. If I only ever wrestle for Reach, I'd be happy for that. And if I ever win a title at Reach, happy days. If not, I'm just glad that I'm a part of it because it's something that I've always been interested in doing. Now I've had a match. I'm looking forward to doing a match with an actual crowd
Yeah,
because I think that's obviously going to be such more of a buzz rather than the six socially distanced people we had in the corner, all wearing masks and hooded and stuff like that. So having an actual crowd, maybe with my family and everything in the audience, would feel a lot better, I think, in the future. So I think
Yeah,
aspirations for
definitely.
that, in regards to wrestling, it's not. I'm not setting the bar too high for me because I don't think I'd ever make it there anyway. I'm just happy if I make a nice name for myself locally. I'd be happy.
No. With the trilogy in mind, there's a couple of people that just would instantly come into my head. Like you mentioned it with the character work and that. You could be adaptable and your versatility to try and be um, a good guy,
Yeah,
essentially. Like, what would you say with Jason King? Because I think with the characters, if you do that inevitable face turn and the way he's so heelish and stuff like that, I think because it's two loud characters, I just think that'd blend so well.
absolutely. I'd love to work with Jason because I think, like you said, I think we would have an absolute laugh. I think it would be hard because Jason's one of these people. Me and Jason bounce off each other at training. We're constantly
Yeah.
like saying jokes to each other and stuff like that. I think it'd be hard not for one of us to crack because both of us would be trying to make each other laugh with just like character work and stuff.
Yeah.
I could see that being quite entertaining, to say the least, especially if I did make like a face turn or something like that, or even if he eventually turns face again and faces me as like the cocky heel that I am now. It could work really well, to be fair. Yeah. I mean, someone messaged me, I don't know, it's like very strange. Someone wrote a comment on the channel and DM'd me on Twitter saying they want to pay Grayson Reeves, for a custom match, a hardcore match against me, and I don't know why that has come about. Yeah,
Wait,
they mess.
they want to pay Grayson to have a match with you, or they want to pay Grayson for you to have a match with them.
No, they want to pay Reach, for a custom match, and the custom match be a hardcore match between me and Grayson Reeves.
Okay.
I don't know why. Uh, Grayson said that he's messaged him as well, and he's wrote on the thing and everything. So it's very bizarre. So yeah, that's one request
Okay.
that I wanna get out of the way. No, but no, there's a few
How
people
much
who've
is he
got.
offering Reach?
Well, no, that's the thing. I wanted to find out eventually because if
And
it's
would you get a
money,
cut of it?
yeah, I was gonna say maybe I'll get a bit of a cut out of it. There's a few people in there though that I would love to have a storyline with, and I think that is like you mentioned earlier. There's so many people in there now, and the best thing about Unit 10 is because it's a weekly thing. We're building characters very quickly, whereas the
Yeah.
Academy shows before was like once every 3 months. It's a slow build, and storylines are dragged out across the year. We're doing storylines in like 3 4 weeks now.
Yeah.
So people have been able to wrestle each other so many times, and like the storyline that Jordan's involved in right now is unbelievable. There's Lucky's whole storyline so far of Unit 10 has been brilliant. LA Taylor and Josh, their little storyline,
LA
Josh and
country.
Reeves, it's brilliant. It's fantastic. And who would have thought like LA Taylor and Josh Knott? I mean, as soon as you say them as a tag team, you think, oh yeah, that is a really good tag team because they're really good friends off camera as well. It fits perfectly. And then you see the chemistry that they have together and you think, oh, it's brilliant. It's
Yeah.
perfect. But I would love to have, a feud against a face LA Taylor because I
She'd
think
batter the shower,
she
mate.
would kick the crap out of me. She literally would kick the crap out of me, and it would be brilliant. I've had a few training matches with her, and both times we've come out of that and gone, that was really good. I really enjoyed that, and like thanked each other. And I just think that could work really well. I'd really enjoy that. But there's so many people that I could like Jordan Sparks because I've trained with him all the way through. We've mentioned like, oh, one day we're gonna have a match together. It's gonna be brilliant. Like I wouldn't care whether I was the face or I was the heel, or he was the face, he was the heel. Just want to have like a match together. It'd be brilliant.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I hope that even after all this and when wrestling does go back to normal, that Reach continue with Unit 10 because I think it's going to prove to be invaluable
Yeah.
to the learning and development of the Reach Academy.
Mm.
And do those live Academy shows as like Reach big shows,
The
if you
pay per
get what I mean. So
views.
it's like
Yeah.
their pay-per-views where all the fans we can be watching there. And then not only is it an Academy show, but it's an Academy show that means so much more because they've been building this story and everybody's been watching online, and then here they are, they can go watch it live in person.
Yeah,
and to see the culmination of all their favorite feuds building up and stuff like that. I think that'd be an incredible thing to do, because
absolutely.
he said it himself, like people's characters and the growth's been second to none, and the amount of people on the academy that I've been speaking to and like, oh, I've just had like one of my best matches, like I can't wait for
Mm.
you to see it and stuff like that. Like it's proven to be invaluable, and I think there'll be a lot of companies looking at Reach and be like, we should be kind of mirroring um, this like platform and the
Yeah.
way their business plan.
Yeah, I think as well, like the previous Academy shows we've had have been very, the audience has been very like family of the people who are wrestling, and then like one or two diehards.
Yeah,
But we're still selling out the shows, don't get me wrong, but that's the main base of the audience is people coming to watch their friends and family wrestle for one of their first times. It's a nice feeling, it's very wholesome. I think if we continue doing Unit 10, we'd have to look at bigger venues because if we're to do an academy show now, I think we'd pull in a lot more people as well as your family and friends who would want to watch and be interested. Like people like yourself who are watching on a weekly basis, who are invested in the storyline. They'd be like, well, I need to go down. I need to see this pay-per-view show and
yeah,
see what happens. So I think, if once the world goes back to our normal and we are allowed to have an audience, that's something that obviously Jason Grayson will have to discuss because I think if we only had the same venue as what we've been having before and we've been selling it out, we're going to have people banging down the door wanting a ticket to see
yeah, definitely.
what we have in store for them.
Well, hopefully they're both listening to this podcast and they'll listen to what we're saying. The fact that Unit 10 will continue, the academy shows can be pay-per-view shows, and you need a bigger venue.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm sure they are. I'm sure they
And
are.
book that hardcore match.
Well, yeah, me and Reeves in a hardcore match. I mean, obviously I'd go over. I sent it to him. I sent it to him as soon as the guy messaged me, and he was like, "You do know you'd lose that." I'm like, well, "Of course I would." Like, don't get me silly. I'm not gonna be like, "Well, obviously I'd win." But yeah, I just thought it was funny. What a rat! That's so bizarre and random, though. It's so random.
I might message Chris and I'm like, right, so how much do I have to pay for you and Luke to be in a hardcore match?
You
Just
know
to get him
straight
to talk.
away. You know straight away where that come from. Brilliant.
Nah, look, but it's been great chatting to you about like your experiences with Reach and just to catch up properly. I know we speak over like Messenger and that, but it's really good to see how far you've come again with the Football Manager streaming stuff. And now, like, I still remember like over the pants and that progress. You're like, yep, getting ready to start going training, see what it's like, and
Yeah.
then here you are making your debut. I'm being able to be your first interview.
Yep.
So I'm getting that Omega Luke exclusive, and like hopefully I'll say it's like I do with everybody else. Like hopefully down the road we can see where your career gets on and get you back on doing more content. And yeah, just keep it up, mate. Like doing fantastic work with the production side, with the editing, and as well as a trainee and a professional wrestler. So well done.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Kat. And thank you for all the work that you've done for Reach, like Unit 10 and all the interviews. They wouldn't be, well, Unit 10 wouldn't be as big if it wasn't for people like yourself who have helped us massively promote it, all the tweets and everything you do. Like, I know I can speak on behalf of Jason because he always mentions how much he appreciates things like that and what you've done for our academy and given all of these people a voice like that. A lot of these people, that's their first interview.
Yeah.
So it's been brilliant. So thank you very much for doing that. I knew I trusted the right man when I suggested you all that time ago. So yeah, it's been brilliant. Thank you very much, and thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure and catching up with you, even though I know you're very busy right now with a newborn. Congratulations, by the way.
No, thank you. We can have like the future Josh in LA. Like we'll raise them to be intergender wrestlers
Exactly
together.
that. Exactly that. Perfect. They don't have a choice in the matter either. They're an
Well,
intergender tag team or nothing else.
well, I know you're a YouTube sensation and loved all over social media, but if somebody has been living under a rock and aren't following you already, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Omega Luke, YouTube and Twitch, Omega Luke Gaming.
Brilliant. I was so hoping you'd hesitate. I'm like, what is it again? Just so I could rib
Can't
you. Like,
remember yet.
YouTube sensation, you sure?
Can't even remember where to find you. Oh.
But
Right,
now,
man.
Luke, like again, all the best, mate, and I look forward to doing it again.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Kat.
Brilliant. So everybody, make sure you do go follow Reach Wrestling. Go watch and subscribe on YouTube. Watch those Unit 10s back. And again, hopefully they'll be doing shows all the way up until Christmas. And if you agree with what we've said, bigger venue, do it as a pay-per-view, continue Unit 10, make sure you tweet them, let them know. And yes, we want that Omega Luke versus Grayson in a hardcore
Oh
match.
God.
So make sure you are tweeting that over social media. Hit the like button on here, hit subscribe. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.